Hi, and happy Monday. I'm Janet Leonard, and I am the founder and CEO of Virtual Instructor. So, we provide software training, consulting, and programming for businesses in Microsoft, Adobe, and Google Workspace programs. So, today I'm going to show you some tips on how to work with charts in Microsoft Excel Office 365. So, let's go ahead and I'm going to pop over to my other screen. And before we get started, we'll just do a little housekeeping over at our site, virtualinstructor.com, where it says Monday Live Calendars. This is where you can see what the upcoming topics are. So next week, I'm going to show you a really cool feature that's relatively new in PowerPoint, so you might not have seen it, but you can actually rehearse with a coach. So you actually go through your presentation and you can get feedback, not from a live person, but AI, but it's pretty cool. And then the following week, there's some new features that are in Zoom. So if you're using Zoom a lot, I'll be showing you those new features. All right, enough of that. Let's pop over to Excel. And I'll keep this simple. When it comes to creating charts in Excel, you can do a heck of a lot of things and get really fancy, but we're going to keep it kind of simple. So here I have my first sheet, and I've got some information, departments, and some data for the 4 quarters. So all I'm going to do is select this data, and then we go up to the Insert tab. And then on the Insert tab, there's a whole area called Charts. Now you have recommended charts. So if I click on that, it gives me a list of recommendations based off of the data that I have in my chart. Or I can click on All Charts. And all charts are basically a lot of these plus more of these ones you see up here. So we have column charts, line charts, pie charts, bar charts, a whole variety. I'll go back to column. And so if I like the idea of a column chart, I can have it basically like we did back in school, where you'd have your X and Y axis, and you start with 0 down at the bottom, and you could draw a rectangle up to whatever that value was, right? Then this one over here is stacking the data. So it would actually stack the values on top of each other. This one would look at the data and shows you the percentage of each of the departments with the different quarters. And then you've got 3D. So we're going to go back with this one, the standard one. And I'll just click on it and then choose OK, and voila, instant chart. Then as long as you have this 4-headed arrow, you can click and drag it wherever you'd like. So I'll move it closer to the data so you can see that. Now, when you have the chart selected, you have 2 extra little tabs that show up on the ribbon. Watch when I click outside of the chart, those tabs go away. So if you weren't aware of that, you might get frustrated because you might think, how come I see that stuff half the time and half the time I don't? Just remember, you have to select the chart, and then that information will show up. Now, when we have this, there's a lot of different ways that you can format your chart and make changes. So I'm going to show you a real simple way. Notice that we've got a bunch of different data on here, right? So if we go to this little plus sign, these are the chart elements. Now you'll also see there's other places you get this. There's like 3 and 4 different places, but this little plus sign makes it real easy. Now notice that there's a check on axes, and that's because we have our axes down there. Now watch what happens if I click on that and it goes away. Then I just see the data. So then I can click back on axes. And then if you see this little like triangle thing, just click on it. And this is showing that I've got a primary horizontal and vertical axis. So this is my horizontal axis and this is my vertical axis. So let's say for some reason I don't want to see the vertical axis. All I have to do is click on the check and it goes away. Click on it again and it shows up. Maybe I don't want the horizontal axis because I see kind of what they are, these legends down here. So I figure I don't need to have it duplicated. So you can play around with these. Now, when it comes to the titles, as I hover over this, you might notice that there is, watch over here as I hover over it, a little axis title showed up, right? So I can click on the little triangle and I can have a primary horizontal axis title, which is down here, and or I can have a vertical, or I don't have to have any. So you just basically come on down here and can choose whatever it is you want. When it comes to the legend, I can click on here and I can move the legend to the right or to the top. Or if I go down to more options, then I have a whole variety of other options. So when you choose the more options, it usually opens up this little pane area where you can see different things. So when you see these little icons, if I click on the bucket of paint, this is where I can go ahead and change some colors. If I click on this one, I can add like shadows or glows. And then this is where I can go in and maybe I'll make it go back toward the bottom. See? All right, now I'm going to click back into the spreadsheet and it goes away. Now the pane option is still there. So if I click back over on my chart, and you might notice it says format the major grid. If I click on that, I can just kind of move things around. But if I come here, I can go to different areas on the chart. So let's say for some reason, I want to change the color for Department C. So I can click on series and notice how it selected those series automatically for me. Then in the bucket of paint, maybe I'm going to change the fill color. And right now, the fill color is a gray. So I can just click on that and maybe I decide I want to make it green instead. So that's how easy it is to change. Now, the only drawback with this, it's not hard, it's just I think you can see there's a lot of moving parts when you're working with a chart. So you just have to kind of start looking around to see what it is that you want to modify. Now, I'll come back and select the chart again, and we'll take a quick look at some of these options up here on the chart design. So on the chart design, do you see it says add chart element? So we could add the elements. This is the same thing as what you saw over here. And then you've got a quick layout. If you say, well, I really don't want to have to go and modify everything. So you can just hover over these and notice how it gives you a different format. So this is kind of nice. It's taken the data with the values for the column charts, and it's put it as a little table here, which you could do yourself, but heck, that's a lot easier if it just kind of selects it for you. Now, again, if you click on something, you can then look over here, and this one now says format data table. And again, you can start looking at all the different things that lets you do with that data table. Now watch what happens. See, it says format data table. I'm going to click on the green one, just do a single click. See how it changed to format data series? And if I click on the title, it changed to format chart title. So whatever you click on, then you can look over here, and this is another place to see all the changes that you can make. So it makes it kind of easy to do that. Now, what if I changed my mind and I thought, you know what, I'm not so sure I want this column chart after all. So I can go back over to change chart type, and maybe I'm going to make it into a line chart. So, or I could go down to an area chart. I'll choose area chart, and let's choose this one here. I'll choose OK, and now it's changed it for me. And then this is kind of tiny, so I could click here, and if we want to, whoops, let's try to make that a little bit bigger. There we go. So we can kind of make this a little bit bigger as we kind of work with our chart. So if I don't like that, I can come on back and whoops, I'm going to change my chart, and I'm going to go back to the original column chart. So it's not the end of the world if you try something new and then you say, I'm not so sure I like that. Now, notice that right now we've got the first quarter over here and fourth quarter. What if I don't want to see everything? So that's what this little filter thing is for. If I click on that, then I could say, you know what? I really only want to see the second and third quarters. And I really only want to see Department C and D. So then if you choose apply, see how it's changed it. Then you can always come back and say, well, I do want to see all of the quarters just for those two. And this way you can filter the data. So hopefully you're starting to get some ideas on how you can plot a chart based off some data, and then you can come in and customize it. There's lots and lots of different ways you can do that. So just to refresh your memory, I'll select this and hit the delete key. Once you get your data in, you just simply select the data. And what it's going to do is it's going to create the chart based off of whatever is that first row and the first column. So, hey, Terry, it's nice to see you. So I'm going to go ahead and go back over. Now you've got insert, but have you ever noticed sometimes this little icon shows up? Well, this is it's called quick analysis. Keyboard shortcut is Control C if you're on a PC, Command C if you're on a Mac. Click on it, and then it's got all these different options. So look at that, charts. So I can come back over here, and then I can choose my chart. So I can choose whatever type of chart. You've got more. So then it just pops you back into that same dialog box. Okay. All right. So I'll just choose, how about a bar chart this time, and choose OK. So then now you have your chart. All right. So hopefully you're getting some ideas on how easy it is to create a chart. Now you can see, though, you can kind of go down a rabbit hole trying to change all these things. So just remember, make sure you select your chart, and then you can either pick whatever it is that you want to change from this little area, or remember you've got the little plus sign and you can kind of pick what you want to change. That will kind of make it a little bit easier for you. Now you have format over here where you can add other things. You can change colors, add text, and so forth. Now I'm going to show you one other thing that's a little fancier, but it's kind of cool. So I'm going to go to chart 2. And notice we have 2 columns. We have annual sales and we have number of sales reps. But look how tiny this data is compared to this. So when we go to plot this on a chart, it's going to look a little weird at first. But I'll end with showing you how you can actually have 2 y-axes, one that looks for the annual sales and one that looks at the number of sales reps, so that you can actually see both the data on the same chart. So I've got it selected, and we'll do this shortcut. We'll click on quick access. I'll just go to charts, and I'm just going to choose this cluster chart. And here's the cluster chart. Now the problem is, I don't know if you can see it, but there's tiny, tiny little orange down here because these numbers are so tiny compared to these numbers here, right? So then you might be thinking, well, can't I just click on it? Well, that gets kind of hard because they're so tiny. But remember, you have a couple areas. When you're on the chart design, you can go to the add chart, and whoops, I lied. You could go to, let me come back over to here, and got to go to format, minor detail. Okay, if you don't see it in one, click on the other. So I'm in the chart, and then I'm going to go to this area, chart area. And so this shows me all the different areas that I can choose. Then I also had the area over here, that little drop down. So I'm going to choose series number of sales reps. So now it's selected that second little chart there, right? So now what I can do is, it's over here, it's got format data series, and I'm going to go to the little series options, and it realizes that this is a different number, and it gives me the option when I select one of the data types that I can make a second axis. So right now I only have the primary vertical axis, right? Now if I click the secondary, watch, something's going to show up here. So I click on that, and now I have a secondary axis. So these numbers here correspond with the orange values. These numbers here correspond with the blue values. But the last thing I'll show you is that you can actually change this if you want, and you can change the type of chart that you have. So if we click on, whoops, I got to go back over to chart design. I'm going to go down to change chart type. And in the chart type, way down at the bottom, you might not notice this, but there's something called combo. And since I have 2 axes, it shows that the secondary axis is part of this number of sales reps, which is currently orange. So all I have to do is click on here, and look at that. I can change it to some other type of chart. So I'm going to make that a line chart. And then when I click OK, look at that. So I can see the annual sales are here in blue, and that would be over on this column. And the number of sales reps is coming off of this column, and this is the little orange line. So if you ever have data where the numbers are quite different in their size, it can make it a lot easier to read the chart by having 2 axes if you want it. Now, the last thing I'll do is I'll show you how we could add an axis title. So we've got a little title here. I could go ahead and click in here. I'm just going to do Control A, and I'm just going to put in sales reps. And then over here, I'm going to click in this title, and I'll just do Control A again, and I'll put in sales. And now we can see that we have the two different axes, and we can kind of tell what they are. All righty. So hopefully that gave you a couple ideas on how to do charts in Excel. There's an awful lot more, but there you can keep them kind of simple. And then as you get more comfortable playing with charts, just try all those different little options there, There's a lot of little things you can change. Here's a little hint. If you get a chart pretty much the way you think you'd like it, save that. Then you can start playing around again. And if you mess it up, just close out and bring back the one you saved. And then you can kind of start to get more and more comfortable with all the different options that you have in charts. By the way, charts work very similar. Basically, they're the same if you do a chart in Word or you do a chart in PowerPoint. I think you can do charts in Outlook. Haven't tried putting in a chart in an Outlook email, but I'm pretty sure you can do that there as well. So hopefully that gives you some ideas. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. And next week, we're going to go ahead and talk about that coach in PowerPoint, which is pretty cool if you're going to be practicing to give a presentation. So have a wonderful rest of your day. Have a nice week. Bye.